Well, after a fresh snow, I always love hitting the trail for a winter hike, but it is also an ideal environment to test out a Finnish-made survival knife. And there are several unique attributes to this design. There are two different blade lengths, with this one being just over 4.5 inches, or a larger version that's pushing 6 inches. Three completely different sheath layouts with two different blade grinds, this being the Teflon coated saber grind or the uncoated Scandi grind. And now, having taken it with me on some high country adventures as well as testing it a bunch in the Blade Boot Camp, I'm looking forward to unpacking how good this JP PELTONEN Ranger Puukko model M07 holds up to similar blades made out of ADCR V2, and how it was able to get NATO's stamp of approval. Thanks for hanging with me today, guys. It's gonna be a heck of an adventure. Let's go ahead and dive on in. Now, when I first unsheathed this knife, I was apprehensive because most designs that are narrow like this with a saber grind that are a 0.17 stock thickness on this one tend to be a little bit more like piercing and pry bar focus and less on finesse, but this thing was a monster at the finer work. Oh my gosh. Dude, this fillets. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. And truly devoured the wood when I came in contact with it, regardless if I was just wanting to make a bundle of feather sticks to help me prep for a fire, or I was doing more precision cuts for, say, like a tent peg to hammer that in, or a tripwire of some kind, or notching. Particularly on the notching, I was really pleased with how I was able to put pressure on the spine and dig in very easily. That's where I often see these style of knives really bog down and just aren't very impressive. So the woodscraft side of this saber grind, I was pleasantly surprised with. Then I moved on into food prep, and I was surprised in that as well. Now, obviously, a full flat grind will be better, but this could easily prepare vegetables, fruit, and then meat, and help you get your meal going if you're on a camp out. And since this knife does have a NATO code, meaning that NATO forces can request this, I believe, order it and use it in their deployments, means that it's got to be able to handle the more aggressive tasks. And it just sliced right through my 7,000-pound toe strap with ease, and then all other forms of cordage, as well as my massive hemp rope. Again, not having to put a lot of pressure on to get through that material, as well as piercing. The tip held up great for that stabbing and lateral torque, as well as just the hard batoning, splitting the wood. It absorbed all the shock, didn't loosen up on the handle in any way, meaning that the ADCR V2 in combination with the handle design we'll talk about in a little bit really work together. Now, what about the Teflon coating on this design, as well as the Scandi grind variants? What are my kind of take on those? I'll address that in just a moment, but I want to thank you guys for hanging with me today. It is truly you guys in partnership with our sponsors here at the channel that help me get out here, test gear, see their capabilities and limitations. So if you haven't yet subscribed, I do invite you to consider subscribing, becoming part of the GT crew here. Hit that like button and make sure to hit the bell icon as well. Before we dive back in, I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, which is AG1. And the reason that I use AG1 in my daily routine is because it covers all of my foundational nutritional needs, regardless if what I'm eating that day is the healthiest option or not. And this way I know I'm taking better care of myself with a simple scoop, because I know I'm getting 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food source ingredients, which helps me to replenish nutrients that I may have lost from the day before, and therefore helps to combat stress and gives me the digestive enzymes that I need, that in turn helps me feel better and more energized for a full day of adventure, regardless if it's hanging out with my boys or exploring the high country and testing out new pieces of gear and equipment. So I invite you guys to head to my link in the description box below this video to get a free 1-year supply of AG1 vitamin D3, K2, plus 5 AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. So I invite you to hop on over and explore all the benefits to having AG1 in your daily routine. Now, when I first heard that this was Teflon coated, I was a little I'm not super fond of that. Did some research. It's food grade Teflon, and as long as it's not getting heated to 500 degrees, Teflon is, you know, supposedly food safe. Now, that doesn't really bother me. It's not a concern. If I use it a couple times a year to prep a few meals when I'm out camping, if it was my dedicated kitchen knife, I'd probably go with the uncoated Scandi grind. Leave a comment below and let me know how you feel about the Teflon. Now, uncoated Scandi grind, ADCR V2, it's gonna rust on you. So you're gonna have to, you know, oil it, maintain it, keep an eye on it. That's just something to be aware of. Now I love ADC RV2 as a steel. This is Rockweld 59, which means it's durable, holds a good edge for that steel. And after all the testing you're seeing here, I was starting to get a few little burrs here and there, still very sharp, but I was seeing a few little aspects that need to be tuned up. Like 2 minutes on a ceramic rod, and this was stupid sharp again. So it's a great field steel, and I think the 6-inch version should definitely, like, it makes sense to have it on a saber grind. Now, if you decide to go on the Scandi direction, obviously it's gonna be better at woodscraft than the saber grind, but it's not gonna have as much edge durability and strength, and you'll find that if you're doing a lot of chopping and a lot of slashing and hacking and going through man-made materials, you're gonna probably be having to hone that edge a lot more frequently than on the saber grind. So leave a comment below and let me know which design you prefer, or if you already own it, which one you use and how it has been performing for you. This knife has 3 different options for you to choose from depending on your preference and environment. Now, there is a composite sheath version, and that's kind of the base model that is available. Then there is a leather sheath option, and then finally a Kydex sheath version. Now, based off of my research, I believe the Kydex versions are the most expensive, and then the composite is the most inexpensive. So there will be a price variant depending on what you're interested in. For me, for this type of design, I really wanted to go with Kydex, and when I was picking this up, it was on sale to have this camo color. There are several colors to choose from. It's a pretty wide pancake design. It would have been nice to have it maybe just a little bit like slimmer profile. It comes with an ambidextrous webbed belt loop that's very easy to attach onto larger, not only military style, but just, you know, generic belts that you may need, where you can again remove that and do different things. You're gonna get a good thumb ramp right there with excellent tension, almost to an extreme level. It's gonna snap really well into place. It ain't coming out. And if we move that webbing, dead silent. So the tension, the build, all of it is excellent, and my only complaint would really just be kind of a larger footprint, but that's easily overlooked because depending on whatever option you choose, and the Kydex is just so well formed that gives me a lot of carrying options. And leave a comment below. Let me know which style of sheath do you feel most connects with you, and if you own this blade already, which one are you using and how is it holding up for you? Now, one aspect to this design that I think will help it really live long and prosper in many of ours regular rotation and go out on those adventures is because it is TPV plastic. This is a thermoplastic that has been vulcanized. So Spock would absolutely love this design here, and the needs of the many of us would outweigh any of the needs of the very few who would have any issues. I can't even think of somebody who would have an issue with this design, because here's what we're looking at. And I immediately grabbed it and I was like, oh, this is gonna be good. Because we're looking at 4.75 inches overall on that polymer. Now it is a full tang construction right there. You can see there's my little magnet hook floating there. So I made it everywhere. We got great magnetization, that's excellent. And we're looking at a girth here of 0.9. So it is beefy. And then here, maximum thickness, 1.2 inches thick there with just slight tapering on either end. So it is girthy. For somebody with large size hands, it feels great in the hand, nice and rounded with just a slight tapering in the center there, ribbed for your ergonomic pleasure right there, giving you just enough grip that you really feel in control, but not ever creating a hot spot. Now, what I really like is that you got a lanyard hole with a rubberized bird beak back there, so you could get some quick wrist flicks, you know, delimb something about as thick as your thumb, shape wood, do that type of stuff. It's not gonna create undue shock. You're not gonna be chopping down trees or anything. It's a compact blade, but it does offer some good wrist flicking action. Now, what I really like, again, even with like gloves on, and it's gonna be like -1, I think it's like, I don't know, 25 right now when I'm filming this. The temperature is dropping quick because the storm's coming in. You can have heavy duty gloves and it feels good, but also if you're using bare hands, you're not gonna feel the cold of the metal in colder environments. So I really like that a lot, and it's not going to be susceptible to the different temperature swings that you may endure. Then that really nice guard right there keeps you locked into place. I had full confidence with all of my woodworking, but also stabbing, piercing, reverse grip. You're going to feel really in control to be able to use it in more aggressive stances if you're doing that. So that the handle ergonomics are excellent as a crossover all-day bushcrafter. You're not going to have any sort of hand fatigue, but also in more aggressive battle belt scenarios that you may have or want to deploy it in. And leave a comment and let me know, do you like the idea of the ribbing here, or would you rather have had like a checker pattern? Now, another reason I wanted to see if this was a viable option is cost, because us here in the States, though it's a little tricky to get your hands on, it is possible. I did it with a little bit of searching, and I'll have some links for you guys below. If you don't factor in shipping, because shipping can kind of be a little bit more for us in the States, and I believe it's cheaper, as well as just the knife itself is a little bit cheaper, I think, for those of you in Europe. The base US dollar price for the composite sheath models are about $100. And then depending on sheath variant, go up to about $150. The Kydex that you see here being the most expensive option. So between $100 and $150 for these size blades, these materials, finished made, is definitely competitive. And just for some food for thought, a knife that came to mind immediately for me, and I believe it is also made in Finland, is the Nato Knives Wilderness Warrior. This knife is also made out of ADCR V2. It is also going to have full terrain construction with a rubberized handle. This is going to have a modified Scandi grind on it that is just holds its edge forever. 90-degree spine on there. It is a more compact, slim down package. Even the polymer sheath, which is ambidextrous, would be great to run on like a battle belt, something like that. And just the overall profile is just very lightweight, more in line with like a Mora, whereas the M07 is definitely like bigger, bulkier. The ADCR V2 is rock welded significantly higher though, at I believe 63, and I think it's differentially heat treated if I remember correctly. I mean, it just works forever. So this would be a competitive option at right around like 140, and we could argue potentially longer edge retention. And then keeping in that same vein, but a little bit more inexpensive and compact, is the ARMIGER 4. It has a polymer sheath that's ambidextrous. You can take it apart. The ARMIGER 4 is going to be a more compact design, but it is made out of ADCR V2. Going to have several blade options to choose from, 90-degree spine. It's just lighter, smaller, but it is that kind of like crossover field knife, tactical tool if you want to, particularly if you go with like a Tanto shape versus this clip point. And this one is made in Taiwan and will go for about $80. So it's most inexpensive and most compact, but still has that kind of vein of what the M07 has. Now, is this the best survival knife to ever grace the Finnish countryside? Well, I don't know about that, but what I do know is that I really enjoy the enlarged handle, because even with these heavy duty gloves on, doing some woodworking here, it feels great in the hand, and the variety of choices on a steel that I really like, ADCR V2. Meaning if you prefer Scandis and that's kind of more your vein, you got options. If you want saber and you prefer more the durability side, you got that, and then more sheath options and you can basically throw a stick at. And it's all hitting that at a viable price point as well. That makes it very competitive with a lot of these other blades that we're looking at. So now it has now made the short list when I'm looking for a durable, compact blade for my outdoor adventures. But I want to know from you guys, particularly if you own one of these already, which version do you own and how has it been performing for you? I always appreciate your guys' data and feedback, helps me with future videos and information. So I appreciate you guys hanging with me today. I hope it's been fun and entertaining. I do invite you to check out the other video popping up and to subscribe if you haven't yet. And until next time, always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and I'll see you out there.